These first finds were only the tip of the iceberg. No one could have expected what was to follow.
Now, you see the village is 40,000 square meters. Now, this is also covered. Everything is covered. All this is covered by sand. This information was gathered after 25 years of exposure.
Sure, it's like, as you say, it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
The deep layer of sand along the coastline is always on the move. This often allows for a very short exploration window. It took over 25 years of work before one of the finest jewels of prehistory gave up all of its secrets. The site was called Atlit Yam, Atlit on the sea in Hebrew.
What?
Before these images were shot, almost no one outside a specialized scientific community was aware of the importance or even the existence of the site. Underwater expeditions require much more resources than digging on firm ground. The preparation is a logistical puzzle on its own. For each mission, a small village has to be erected on the beach to accommodate the researchers, the divers, and their equipment. The ascent of mankind implies the whole world. Besides Israeli researchers, scientists converge here from Germany, Scotland, Ireland, France, Canada, Scandinavia, or Bulgaria. The current mission was initiated by the European Splash Coast program, dedicated to the study of continental shelves.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Atlit Yam Field School.
For the major part of prehistory, during the last ice age, continental shelves everywhere were above water level. Mankind's first roads were never far from coastlines, so up to 85% of all the earliest archaeological sites are now located under the sea.
The site is located about 400 meters offshore here to the west, behind this van with the boat. A little about 200 meters south.
In the time of Atlit Yam, the Levantine coastal plain stretched up to a kilometer further west towards the sea.
I'm really excited about my first dive. I'm not sure what to expect, how warm it is, and the visibility or condition of the remains down there. So I'm quite nervous. It's my first marine archaeology dive.
We are now in the North Bay of Atlit. We are going to dive in the submerged Neolithic settlement Atlit Yam. It is a 9,000-year-old settlement from the pre-pottery Neolithic period. And at that period, people didn't have pottery. Of course, they didn't have metal. They didn't know how to write. But they produced all kinds of tools from bone, from stone. And this is actually what we found.
Underwater archaeology, relative to sort of traditional land archaeology, it is a new field, like the work that Ehud Galili and his team have produced here at Atlit Yam, has really helped the field of submerged prehistory to be recognized on an international level, and I think it's only going to expand. We set up the dredger, and it's just a question of getting a very large aluminum pipe unbalanced, sort of the head where the valve is, and it's pretty heavy. And so they said, right, we're gonna go down. You take this end, I got this end, we'll go down together. He gives me the super heavy end, and I went whew, right down to the bottom, and I thought, yeah, that was funny. So I was pretty awkward initially, but then we got down. They set up basically the dredge line, a couple of buoys to keep it sort of buoyant. It's actually a nice setup. And then that took a while, and it's our first working dive together, so there's a bit of communication. It's like your first day on any job. You have to figure out who you're working with and how you're working together and all of that, except you can't talk. So you're trying to, you do this and you watch me and all that stuff, and by the end of the dive we had it.
Over the years, Dr. Galili's teams have contributed to the fine-tuning of reliable equipment to move and sieve through the thousands of cubic meters of sand that covered the ruins.
Diving with Ehud is like diving with someone who has the experience of a 60-year-old and the energy of a 25-year-old.
One of the peculiarities of archaeology is the unavoidable systematic destruction of evidence. Archaeologists are entitled to one single attempt. Our team members are forced to work slowly with extra caution and thoroughness, looking for the smallest clues. Depth of the layer, soil composition, and even the relative position of remains are essential to recreate the past. No one knows under which stone an archaeological find is hiding. The 40,000 square meters of Atlit Yam are an archaeological mine. Architecture, technology, lifestyle, wherever they dig, Dr. Galili's research teams discover new clues about this year-round sedentary site. Twice as old as the Egyptian pyramids, the well discovered by Galili is the most ancient example of this type of construction ever found. This first well turns out to be an archaeologist's dream come true. Instead of the expected sand and rocks that should have filled it, scores of carved objects, animal remains, and other man-made items were found, giving a fair chronicle of the daily life of the 30-odd families that used to live here all year round. For archaeologists, all of Atlit Yam artifacts are deemed in situ finds, objects found in context, where they were abandoned 9,000 years ago.
Là, on a trouvé quelque chose d'intéressant quand même. But this is a flint pebble, it looks like. You have the cortex here. And we have some... Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. These are flakes. This one is slightly eroded, but they are all man-made. Let's say that this is a big core of flint, like this. This is the core. So you prepare, make some preparation, and then one strike, tick, and you have the blade.
In the sole sector dedicated to flint toolmaking, a sample of 8,755 artifacts has been identified, from flint flakes to functional tools.
These are artifacts that we found in Atlit Yam. It is only a random collection just to demonstrate the nature of the artifacts that we have here. This, for example, is a bifacial. You have all the surface polished with pressure flakes. It takes a lot of skill and professional flint napper to do this. Maybe in 1,000 people there is only one who is specialist for this, and this knowledge was transferred from generation to generation, and it is very, very sophisticated, very, very prestige too. There were arrowheads. We have two kinds of arrowheads, and these are biblos. These are biblos. You can see the arrowheads, how nice they are worked. Perfect. They were hafted, of course, and they were used for hunting. And these are bifacial axes, and they were used for woodwork, used for cutting woods, cutting trees, and maybe producing boats, who knows? Because we know that these people had the capability of sailing in the sea. Because the type of fish that we discovered, some of them are deep sea fish, and they require knowledge in sailing. So they probably had boats, but we didn't find the boats because organic material is not always preserved.
The waterproofing effect of clay has helped the archaeologists in many ways. Fragile remains such as fish bones are abundant. Over 6,000 fish remains have been lifted from the bottom, allowing for very detailed interpretations. With its characteristic retractile dorsal spine, triggerfish is the most common species found in Atlit Yam. The average size of the specimen analyzed matches the expected type of catch using a net.
They had the ships, they were fishermen, they were good fishermen. We found here a lot of fishermen equipment. And also needles, which they probably saw the nets, and they live on fishing, they live by the sea.
You know, there are no evidence for both whatsoever, you know. How can you tell from the human, from the bones, that the people were engaged in seafaring, you know, that they were really using boats, you know, and whether they were able or capable of reaching the island of Cyprus, for example. And there are specific diseases, you know, especially in the vertebral column, that tells you the posterior part of the vertebra, the neural arch. So there is enough evidence in the skeleton to tell you almost everything about the people who were living at Atlit Yam.
Typical wear on specific vertebrae and larger muscle attachments on high limb bones are compatible with long hours paddling in a boat.
You see, if you take this mandible, for example, you see here we have molars. One of the side of the crown is totally eroded. This specific teeth was heavily attrited by some cultural behavior, because we know that people were using their teeth not just to process the food, but actually to prepare fishnet, for examples, or to prepare baskets, for example. But what we call cultural attrition is very different from what you call food attrition.